1,500
But
trays.
he's supposed to be.
Don't seem like much, but when you get like 400 trays a day, it's gonna probably double out, be close to double our
All right,
yearly.
we're live.
And quality of food.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Meeting of the Capital Committee, Commissioner Brazil is not here. He has been diagnosed with the flu yesterday, so I think he may be watching. But we'll turn it over to the county manager.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to, I guess, the first meeting for this fiscal year for Capital Committee to start thinking about our budget walking into fiscal year 25. And so what I've put or given you was an original schedule that was already in place for the county over the next, as you can see, several years. And what has been on the schedule that we knew walking into this year needed to be addressed across the county. And this is where previously it had been mapped out. So when you look at the column that says 24, that of course is this year. And those that are in that different orange color are those that are the projects that have been accomplished this year, so they will not roll into next year. The remaining X's in 24 that are not oranged out are projects that either have not been addressed or we need to determine what we want to do, if we want to roll those. So I thought we would just start a conversation today, about, with Mr. McGurk's input, about this schedule, things. I think we need to hear from Mr. McGurk on some of these projects to see if he still feels like these are in the right timeline. For example, maybe a roofing project. It may be scheduled for, I don't know, let's just say 28, but is that roof beginning to become a problem? Do we need to push it up? Do we need to readjust some of these? So I will welcome you, Mike, for any thoughts you have about that.
Thank you, ma'am. A lot of this stuff on here was put in and kind of projected what we were gonna do, but we have things that happen that kind of changes the course. That being said, this year, we've got two issues that's come up. One is, the main sewer line that serves the health department DSS. We're gonna be coming up with a $50,000 repair that's gonna happen on a main 8-inch line. So we're gonna be asking for that in the budget this year because that's something that's gonna get worse as time progresses. Second thing is over at
When you say this year, do you mean we need to fit it in the 24,
in the coming up budget.
25? Okay.
The second thing is, we have had, a lot of issues with the detention centers, sewer line. We had them come in and camera, some lines, and recommendation is gonna be to go in and actually, clear these lines, because we got a lot of scale build up in there. We camera those lines. It's just, well, I had a lot of issues here in the past. We're gonna look also to, ask for about $60,000 to actually clear those lines. The recommendation from the professionals are to descale the lines so they flow better, but also, like we've done in the past, is put in a liner that makes it almost like new piping that comes with a 50-year warranty. The first thing we're gonna wind up doing is descale the lines this year's budget, having to come back and look at it, and we'll have a number for next year's budget to actually reline those pipes.
Was that the 250 that's on this year for courthouse sewer?
It is not, we've never got that budgeted, so it didn't go into
So
last.
that's not gonna happen. That's,
So what I'm gonna ask for is coming up in this year's budget, we projected that number based off some information that we had prior to.
This 250.
Yes, sir. But it was never put in last year's budget, so we're looking to actually descale the line because we've got a good number on it now. And
it'll
then,
be only 60.
You're right. It's important to note the amounts listed doesn't mean they were budgeted. This was just the plan, and the years at some point.
so we've got a number now of 60,000 to actually go in and descale the lines at the courthouse and the detention center. Then they will come back and give us another number on to actually line it. So it's kind of be like a 2-year process. So we've got good information before we make those decisions. And those are the two main concerns that I have coming up. We do have, library roof is out of warranty, but we're not having issues at this time with any kind of leak since we've taken the trees down and cleared the, gutters around that building. So even though it is out of warranty, it's in fair shape, and it's something we could possibly push off a year or two, depending on, what your, budget money looks like, is what we can actually do.
I wouldn't fix it if it ain't broke.
So we're trying to ride it out, and, right now, we'll maintain it on it.
So, well, there's one potential decision right there for the library. We're probably not looking at that next year.
Right.
But we do have in the library this year, it's already been budgeted, we got a PO out for it, they're gonna start working March, scheduled to have it done this year's budget, so the parking lot will be, repaired this year's budget
For the library.
for the library. So the major, things we're gonna accomplish in this year is gonna be a library parking lot, detention center generator, and also the detention center, freezer and cooler.
I can speak, I guess we could speak to these that won't get accomplished this year, and maybe part of the reason, the IEJ parking, we, were getting plans together to do that, but we've run into, again, the grant with SCAP. We can't disturb the ground. So I
I'm
don't
confused
think
with
that's-
that because the plan I saw on that IEJ parking, and I've heard about that, wasn't even near that line that we were proposing.
But
To
right
give
now,
to
it's
them.
all one parcel. And so, the
So,
grantor, division,
I got
powers that be, that's one
you.
parcel of
Until we
land.
separate it.
Right.
It's all in the same.
And we can't
And
do
we
that
did
because it has to stay in our name until they
Exactly.
get.
And we did get feedback that, we do think that environmental study, which is the next step, can be done in, what did he say, the next 90 days potentially? So I don't think we're looking at being pushed back terribly far. Once the environmental study is done, then you can disturb the ground. So that won't prevent us from doing our parking work.
Okay.
Um,
Well, we can still get that under this year though.
be close.
Or at least
I
get
guess-
started.
Yeah, I guess we'll see, but it'll probably roll, part of that will roll over to next year. On the second page, maintenance shop, that's definitely still an ask, I think, for Mike.
It is, our maintenance department, mechanics, we've, outgrown the building we have. We're looking to increase the size of it to maintain more county vehicles. Health department's getting an RV, library, we don't have a way to work on their vehicle on some of the stuff we can do. So we're looking to increase the size of the shop to be able to maintain, more vehicles. We've got plans for the future. Hopefully all county will be involved to where we can be like a in-house stop and shop with the right amount of equipment, manpower, so that we can provide, hopefully, future needs for the county, including the sheriff's department, Right now, we got one guy that covers everything, and he's working on 60 vehicles, not counting the sheriff's department's vehicles. So our plans is to, let's develop something that we can serve all needs for the county.
Does he still just have one lift in there?
He does.
And part of that is he knows if he has two lifts, even with his one person working, he can't do double work, but he can work quicker and more efficient, even if he had two lifts sitting there. So, so I guess that's something we'll discuss. And then the last thing on here that isn't addressed is the courthouse parking lot. Mike, and it says repair on there, so I don't
Well,
know what your thoughts are on that.
we've got two facilities that we have not had any work done in the 17 years I've been here. One being the courthouse, one being the annex. Our plan was, they kind of talked about, and I know this is a little different, was taking care of the annex because it's a smaller project, but then taking care of the courthouse. Courthouse, we researched it over the years since I've been here. Over on the right-hand side of the courthouse where courtroom number 2 is at, is starting to do what they call cobblestone, basically that base is failing. There has been no preventive maintenance on that parking lot that I'm aware of. I know in the 17 years, and I don't know how long it was put in before, because I don't have any records to show anything on it. So that's gonna be a major undertaking, when that happens.
That's gonna take some advanced planning, cause you got court there every day just about. I don't know how long you would shut that parking lot down for that, but then.
Well, we're fixing to move the library and they've said it's gonna take 90 days.
And the reason they gave the 90 day is because springtime, rain, you know, you get a rain and you're down for 3 weeks trying to get it dry out to where, depending on what you're doing over there.
But even a week at the courthouse is gonna be, well, I mean, just where we gonna put cars, where you gonna park them? Unless they would say, hey, for that week, we won't have court, but I don't know that they can do that, so.
Schedule it in a judges conference or something.
And another
But I
thing,
mean, someone, ain't nobody gonna be there, I don't.
and that's gonna be a major expense. I got a price on the annex, to repair that parking lot. And that number on here is low. You're probably looking at about $250,000 just to do the annex.
How much?
250,000. So courthouse with all the curb and gutter they got in there to try to work around, gonna be a lot of detailed work in there.
So that 200,000 estimates on here is really low.
So, yeah, those, like I said, those numbers weren't generated from anything other than we had some guys come out and look at it, but depends on what you find once you get there. If you got any errors, any bases failed, you got to undercut, so there'll be a charge that could be unforeseen until you get involved into it.
Okay.
And let me throw another thing that's not on this list here as well. Every year we budget a certain amount of dollars for inside the courthouse for the clerk of court to distribute. This year, the magistrates have got with the judges and are asking to upgrade the magistrate's office. So there'll be probably some talk about that.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about
Well, they did that.
request.
They did that one time before.
Um,
They asked for a window, you remember?
They did, and they kind of,
Oh, they put that little glass for COVID across
Yeah.
there, but they didn't do
yeah,
They never put a window.
right. And then when the COVID left, they wanted to take it down, and we did, but now it's come back up. I had a meeting with the judges, and with the magistrates a couple weeks ago, and they're batting around some ideas, so that's gonna come back. But the cost just for that window back when we looked at it was about 10 grand.
So we're gonna go into request for
Okay.
this coming year. I just wanted
Well-
you all to take a look at what was already sitting out there, had been done, and what our thoughts are. What do we want to roll over to 25?
Well, there's one thing marked here for 25 is that IEJ Phase 2.
Yep.
And, I don't think we're ready for that based on it, because we don't have an idea what we're gonna do with there. And so I don't know that I would budget that money until we know what we're gonna do with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we can push that out.
So I'm gonna, okay. So do you wanna look at 25 and see what's sitting there? And, Mike, is there anything in 25, we talked about the library, that you're thinking, no, that really doesn't need to be there? That could go further back into another year.
As far as our roof goes, the courthouse, I mean, the library is the oldest roof, and it's in decent shape. Like I said, we don't have any leaks right now. So I think we're good for maybe a year or two on our roofing situation, unless something drastically fails. I mean, it's at the end of its life. It's past the end of its life by a year or two. So it's something I'd rather be proactive and say, okay, we've got what we should get out of it. We need to be planning for this. But like you say, you know, if we got needs somewhere else that we can address.
Some of these that are in column 25 are already being requested by the departments as well, like that ambulance remount. That is something that Robert acknowledges we need that, and he's put that in as well. Cars from the sheriff's department, they've already put their request in for that as well. So some of these already line up, like that detention generator. That's in the works already. So those three, at least at the top, would stay on there. We talked about IJ, pushing that out. IJIT/media. I'm not sure what that was. Do you know what?
It was that media room, but that's already done,
Well,
wasn't it?
also we had looked at how much, we had a plan as to what was gonna move over there. So we were coming up with a number for that, for DSS, Cooperative Extension when they made the move.
No, that's,
One thing we've done with IT at IJIT is to prepare if we ever began to develop that hallway room. that hallway rooms, when we ran the switches into IAJ for the network, we went ahead and established that for that side of the building. So like the switches are sitting there, just have to be tapped in.
But it doesn't, the school doesn't run through there anymore.
No, sir. Mm-mm. So I don't know if that 150, if that's something you want to take off of here, because clearly we know anytime we want to add a project, we'll put it on our calendar.
Well, it's just like that phase two. I think both of those, because we don't know what we're going, you know?
Right. And as far as IAJ and the gym, of course, we had our last day of giveaway. And so
Oh,
now,
how'd that go? Did we get rid of
Miss
it?
Dorothy, was it yesterday, Miss Dorothy, day before?
It was yesterday.
Yes, ma'am. And,
Mhm.
Get rid of a
Still a
lot of it?
lot left,
Oh,
and,
is it?
Mike and I were talking, and plus I talked to Ms. Sneed, maybe sending an email to all employees, because I don't think they consider themselves as part of the community. Maybe do it, maybe from 4 to 5:30 one afternoon, and let the employees come in if there's something they
What's
want.
mostly left? Tables, chairs?
Tables,
chairs.
chairs, there's some desks in there, some electronics, I don't know what some of them are, you know.
right.
Oh, is that out that
Smart
room?
boards.
Is that out that room, that front room?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so after that, we have really given out a lot of opportunity for people to come get it. Our next step is to take it away so we can start working on that cafeteria. Matter of fact, they already started working on the floor in that cafeteria.
I just want to throw all them thin clients away, because that stuff could be used. And there was hundreds of those, and they're still in the box.
What are
Brand
those?
new. Thin client, it's like a virtual
I
desktop.
don't remember seeing those.
They were over there against that wall. There were hundreds of them. in
The
the
little
box.
Talking about
Chrome
little
boxes.
No, it's like makes your desktop, but it's a
A thin
virtual
client is
desktop.
What we
a
talking- the little Chrome
Is
boxes.
that that Chrome?
because that's what we use at DSS.
It's a dummy computer, for
We-
lack of a better word.
DC3 also went over there. I sent them over there to say, is there anything in here we want to keep?
Yeah.
Right? We kept some brand new things like keyboards and, I don't even know what you call it, adapters. We kept some stuff in there, but the rest of it just wasn't stuff.
A lot of those thin clients that he's talking about, they got gone, didn't they?
No, there's still a lot of those there.
Really?
Yeah, they were boxes.
Yeah,
I mean,
They were
big boxes.
over against the wall.
You're not talking about that adapter.
You're talking about that little square box?
That's not a thin client. A thin client's what is used on a DSS desk, and all it is a dummy box that has no hard drive in it, for lack
Right.
of better
It
words.
makes your
It-
desktop you're working out of a cloud with it.
Right. It's the box that allows your computer to get on our county's network.
Yeah.
But you can't save anything on it,
Right, you
has
can't
no
do
hard
any work
drive.
to it, right? I hate to throw those out.
I'll be glad to go over there and look again
Somebody could use it.
before we get rid of
And they're
that.
not that
electronic.
expensive, but still, somebody.
No, a thin client is about $800 versus buying a computer
Yeah.
for a desk is clearly more.
Let's talk about this detention facility in high school that's on here, and I know there's no date. But I personally think we probably need to start thinking of a time. I don't know how you feel about that, but,
Yeah, this schedule you can see goes out
goes
to
out
year
36,
37,
and they're not on
and
there.
it wasn't on there anywhere. There's a major.
I mean, I think we all want to push it out as far as we can, but I think we're approaching as far as we can.
Yeah, I think
It's a
we're-
conversation we gotta start having at least.
Right, and definitely having, I think, to throw another element into here, which of these projects, if any, like these are two huge ones, do we start talking to our lobbyists about and talking to our legislators about?
Right.
I mean, a detention facility, we're gonna need some assistance from the state.
For both of them.
And that's not a
Exactly.
courthouse, that's just a jail, right?
Can I get a little input on this right here? I reached out to Montgomery Technology and Mosley Architect that came out. They're the ones that's been designing a lot of the law enforcement centers that you're seeing being built across the state. Bladen County has one over in Elizabethtown. It is a law enforcement center. They have a jail, they have a sheriff's office, they have all of their civil offices and everything, and also a courthouse. And they usually find somewhere that's secluded out in the county. And it's pretty much like a big roundabout when you get back there. It's in the middle of nowhere, and you're seeing more and more people going that route with like a law enforcement center. I had got a quote. It's been a few years back with Mosley Architect, and a 200-bed jail. Right now we have 109 beds in Scotland, but a 200-bed jail is what we happen to quote it for, because I was also trying to think funding wise, how can we get this thing funded? 200 beds, that will leave us room to be able to have beds for either the misdemeanor confinement program, where then we can house inmates that get sentenced to 90 to 180 days, and then the state gives us money to house them, as well as holding federal inmates. Federal inmates, at one time, they were paying $100 per bed, whether it was being used or not, because they need places for the whole federal inmates. So
we could make
109
our
beds,
jail a
say we-
revenue stream to some degree.
So I'm thinking if we gave 50 beds to the feds, 50 beds at $100 per day, that's a lot of revenue coming back in. I mean, of course, yeah, we would probably have to have a few more staff members to be able to manage all of that, but it'd also be a way to help be making that payment. I mean, you're looking at 50 times 100. I mean, that's $5,000 a day. That's $30,000 a month coming back in, and that's whether the bed's being used or not, because the federal is always looking for places to hold inmates. Right now, if we hold an inmate for 3 days for them right now, we'll get a check in the mail for $250, $300 just for holding that inmate for them a couple of days so they can come pick them up. So that might be a way to tackle reaching out to the federal government as far as holding the inmates for them. And the quote I had got, I see that 55 million, not sure what that was, but the quote I had got was 36 million. And that was with a courthouse, a 200-bed jail, and that was through Mosley Architect. And like I said, that quote's probably outdated by a good little bit now, but I mean,
It's probably closer to 55.
And that was for the law enforcement center.
that's for a law enforcement center, a courthouse, and you start thinking about all the bills that, I mean, we're pretty much patching and doctoring up everything, and
Probably is 55.
I'm not trying to be biased. I mean, I was the jail administrator for a while. The jail's my baby. I mean, but that place is starting to get costly with repairs. We're out of code on certain stuff. I mean, it's at some point I feel like it'll be more feasible to build new and be up to code than, especially if we can find ways like that to help fund it.
What'd you say, 30% of the detention center is closed down? We can't.
Yeah, right now,
The old part of
the old
jail.
part of the jail has been condemned by the jail
Been
inspector upstairs.
700.
Yeah.
Right by, you see a lot of space.
So how many, if that's about 30%, how many beds can you not use right now because they've shut that part down?
Upstairs, old jail, 16 beds can't be used. 700 would hold 15 bodies if it was up and running. That's counting the handicap cell, one person in that room and then 2 in the rest. So that's 31 bodies that we could be using. And it's probably just a matter of time before the downstairs of the old jail, the jail inspector is probably going to, at some point within the next 5 years, that's going to be
Right.
so far out of code.
Is that 31 out of the 109?
No,
Okay.
we could hold an additional 31 if that stuff was up and running.
Gotcha.
Right now, we got 109 operating
can
beds.
use.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
And that block, that cell block upstairs is not always being used for storage now.
Yeah.
How many would that hold?
15 if it was up and running.
But it would cost us
Well, and the
$1
other
million
thing,
to get
one
it.
thing we ran into a problem when we also got Mosley Architect to just kind of look at that. Whenever it was up, they said something like there's not a moisture barrier underneath the floor, the concrete of that floor. And right underneath that is where the captain's office is, the control room. You got all your electronics and everything that pretty much makes that place operate.
So if somebody
So if an inmate
floods
floods
it.
the cell,
Yeah.
you're leaking down on all your electronics, and now you pretty much fried your whole control system for the jail.
And we know what it's like not to have our electronics for weeks at a time.
Yeah, so we just wanted to throw that out there
Do we want to throw a date,
for future
Yes, is
plans.
there something,
a year? That way we can start.
start real
Planning.
conversations about that?
Let me add, in that I've been in a couple of meetings with the judges, and Judge Future seems to be pretty level-headed, and, but I've heard some conversation and about a new courthouse. Some of the stuff being outdated, and I'm just kind of some talk, nothing saying, well, we gotta do this, but it hasn't been talked about, just cause all the courtrooms are old, they're all 1963 models, so it has just been kind of just.
My living room's 1948, it works fine.
And not as many people running through your living room.
I think jail inspector ain't coming through your living room.
One of my conversations with Mr. Easterling over the last probably 2 or 3 months, he brought this up.
Yeah.
And he says,
Oh, it's coming.
I'm not going to be surprised to see Scotland County not get your courthouse jail from the legislature, like Hope County just got,
Right.
what, maybe 2 years ago?
Yeah.
You're gonna get
It
yours.
just
His thoughts
passed.
were in the next, he said 10 years, but maybe we can push it up to
They
5 years.
they received 100% pass from the health department, from the jail inspector, and from the fire department.
Right.
I said, I guess that was new.
Well, and the good thing, we
But
start
then-
getting our judges on board.
Yeah.
And saying, and you get inspectors start condemning parts of your jail, like you've got real reasons
Yeah.
other than wants, you got needs at this
We
point.
do a 5-year plan.
And most of your new facilities, if you notice, all your new jails, because they are up to code, they are up to standards, then they get federally accredited. And that makes a big difference. Yeah, you have to pay for the audits, but then the amount you receive back from the federal government surpasses that by a long
Do
shot
you
by being accredited.
Do you have to be federally accredited to do the
We might
bed
have to do that
revenue,
one.
to hold those beds?
For the
you?
federal inmates, probably so, but I don't think that would be a problem at all with a new facility,
Oh,
because
no.
we would, right from the get-go, we would meet all,
Well, you would build it towards accreditation.
and so
Well-
you're pretty much,
So the question, what we were just talking about is maybe we put it out as a 5-year plan. To go ahead and start
Just
that,
start.
that wheel turning, because we gotta cross that bridge somewhere. And probably sooner than later. And then after we cross that bridge, if the high school's, gonna be an issue, then we're gonna need to start doing that. But we need to start thinking about, definitely 55 is probably gonna be in the area if it was 36 a couple years ago. But, where would it go? And because we know we own the lot next door
Mhm.
on that corner, but is that a viable place
And is
for it?
there, right, is it
Um,
large enough, and all kinds of questions.
You're
about
right.
that.
So,
And I also thought we owned I guess back where the warehouse, and I don't know what the names of the streets are, but basically in the curve.
yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
talking
that's what
about,
I'm
that,
talking about.
that corner lot
Yeah.
there, that's right beside the railroad, used to be warehouses
Yes.
there.
Roper
yes.
and Railroad Street.
Yeah,
right there.
But I don't know if there's enough room there to do it, but it would be convenient because the infrastructure is already there, but if then,
Especially if you could, well, I don't know, if you could use your existing land where the courthouse is, I know that may be impossible. And this, all
yeah,
your,
because some
they're
of
just
it,
across
how
the
are you
street.
gonna,
Exactly,
coordinate the,
how are you gonna do that? What are
tear
you
down
not
one
gonna
to
do while
build
that
the
one's
other,
being
right.
torn down?
And that was one thing I had actually talked to Mike about this past couple of weeks, and I was gonna see about possibly, if that's not in the question no time soon, I was gonna see about adding to this list for a future plan, is possibly shutting down Roper Street. That's the side of the street where all the patrol cars park, the little side of the sheriff's office. If we could talk with the city and see what we got to do to get that road closed down, we have nowhere to safely exchange inmates, bringing in arrestees. We had one guy that was a possible homicide suspect, actually ran from one of our officers several months ago. Other facilities are pulling up. We don't have a safe place to make the exchange.
I mean, so that's not a public street.
Yeah, and we're probably one of the very few places in the state. I've done transport for a while, and I've been to a lot of jails and prisons, and you just pull up in our parking lot and bring your inmate into the building, having somewhere safe to make that exchange. I
like
mean,
a
it's-
Sally Port.
and when we're loading people up to take them to prison, state prisons no longer come to get their inmates like they used to. Used to, the prison bus would pull up on Roper Street, we'd block the roads off, would provide security for them, and they get on the bus. Those days are over with, staffing shortages and stuff, so we have to, actually, everybody that gets sentenced, we're having to carry them. So what we deal with now is, we're loading up, people taking them to prison, you got family members out there in the parking lot, free such and such, they're out there with their cell phones, and I mean, it's just dealing with that public, we have no privacy, no safe, secure place, and we were thinking about a hurricane fence system with like a sliding door where the control room officer pulls up, they hit the little gate, open the gate, you know what I'm saying, just having some kind of safe place to make the transaction.
Is that a city street or a state road?
City.
It's a city, so the city could do it.
Yeah, and all we had to do is, just petition the city to get it closed. There shouldn't be an issue, because since we own both sides of it, it doesn't really serve another purpose.
So just trying to figure out a project, like you said, mostly the hurricane fence and material type stuff. I don't think it'd be a major project to make that happen. It don't have to be anything bricked in, just a fenced in area, just something
So what
safer to
you
make
do,
the
just fence
exchange,
it off and-
bring the people in and out of that jail and.
But if we got a 5-year plan to do the new thing, then that would need, something be needed, but also don't want to spend a fortune in it.
Something real minor.
Yeah,
I know Judge Futrell probably, and I agree with the 5-year plan, because I know since he's been the Superior Court judge up there, safety has been one of his pet peeves. Matter of fact, he just sent me a manual out, I think, right there at Christmas time about courtroom security. And he's always talking about it. If he sees you in the hallway, he'll stop. He actually has us going up to Wadesboro on February the 3rd. They're doing an active shooter scenario in the courthouse up there in Wadesboro. So, I do know that there have been some judges across the state that has just ordered, I want this done. I don't think we'll ever get to that place because of the commissioners and stuff that we have. But I just see where he's headed
Oh, yeah.
and what is.
Well, like with the
it's
camera
focused.
system and.
Yeah,
And
he's,
saying, we need this, I want this, and get it done, basically.
and
kinda
the talk
what it's
started again after this last deal in Las Vegas where the guy jumped over the
Mhm.
Judge's bench.
judge's bench and assaulted the female. And, so.
Okay, so we're gonna put that attention on the 5-year plan. The high school, I don't know that we're putting that on a plan right now.
Well, I don't know that we could, I mean, I don't know we could do both of them at the same time.
I don't
So
know. And,
Oh.
and the jail
maybe
and
we
the
have to
courthouse
wait
is probably in
till
worse shape.
the other part of the schools are done until we start the high school project.
And I think that was the plan of the discussion, because looking at, I know your sheet only goes out till I think 37. I'm looking online, we've got the high school listed at 2040.
So-
And that looks like that was about a year or two after the Wings
Final.
and South Johnson
Or
were paid.
finalized, yeah. So then it doesn't.
Okay. So you've got the splash pad on there, and I don't know a lot about what that was about. I feel like I remember you all asking for legislative funds,
We did.
but I don't
We did.
think that got funded, so I don't know if that is something you're still interested in, if we're looking at a
Well,
lower
they're
cost
talking
project.
about tearing up that entire thing and building a new one.
Oh,
And
yeah, I
and
remember the
can't,
presentations.
I
Um,
just can't picture that. I mean, I know you had the pumps and that kind of stuff, but that it would need completely tearing up and redoing. I mean,
You mean the infrastructure should be
yeah,
support
yeah,
and
should be-
grow from that.
what's there is concrete
I-
and pipes.
Yeah, I will
mean,
say that, what we asked department heads to do at our last meeting last week was present your capital projects for next year. Let's have some open conversation here. This is not one that came up. So I'm not sure if Brian is saying, yeah, we didn't get the legislative money, so this isn't a priority anymore, or that he didn't bring this up and we don't have a request yet,
So then
for
that-
that project. So
To me, that wouldn't be on there.
if that's something you all wanna not make a priority.
Right. But I
But
don't,
either way, of course, I'm gonna do whatever.
I would suggest having a conversation
Yeah.
with Brian about it again and just kind of,
Okay.
I don't want to throw it all the way away.
Right.
Because our splash pad does need some upgrades of some sort.
Well, it's just.
Tim don't have no children, so he
It's
don't.
kind of
he
boring.
don't see it.
It's boring.
Yeah, He needs some.
Okay,
It's
so,
been, I think, like 15 years since.
A lot of people use it.
A lot of people use it.
well, I know they
And I'll bring in
have to
some
do something
numbers.
with the pumps and all every year. They have.
yeah, I'll
But,
bring
I
in
mean,
some
I'm
numbers,
just
maybe has
thinking.
numbers on how many people are using it, and I know revenue's not a factor because it's very inexpensive to use, but, what kind of traffic's it getting?
Because I know right now
Oh,
they're
that's
adding on like little slides and that type of stuff to make it more interesting. So, I mean, we
And maybe
really
it's a
need to do
much
something
smaller.
to it.
But I mean, I'm just thinking of the pad and the equipment that's there. To me, the upkeep part is in the back, the pumps and the supplies and all that stuff. And I can't imagine it being that much.
Can we use existing like Mr. BJ is saying and add to existing?
Right.
Okay. Moving right along, maintenance shed, I'm sure not sure what a maintenance shed is, Mike, versus the shop.
The maintenance shop is, where we work on the vehicles.
I know, right,
The maintenance shed that we have is an old double wide we got from schools, and we built a, shelter around it. We basically, it's where we store all our equipment at, backpacks, weed eaters, blowers. We do any, handyman type work, making little shelves, cabinets for the county, whatever we do.
Could you use the old health building, the clinic?
Actually, doesn't work for us.
I was asking.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find a use for that thing.
I understand.
We have a use for the land, because you'll see that we want to put a shelter there where the new health department RV will be parked
Oh, yeah.
and, some other, I guess, equipment.
Yeah,
So we have a use, and that's gonna work out because those sewer lines are sitting there. When that RV has to be cleaned out and
Right.
serviced, the lines are already there. So that kind of works out.
I'm just thinking of trying to save that.
Yeah,
but the maintenance, shed is more than just a shed. It's our storage facility for all our small equipment, plus we, park our mowers under it. This would allow us, and we haven't asked for it this year's budget because we prefer to have the shop, but probably next year's budget we will. We would be parking some of our equipment in there to keep it under lock and key.
so is the current shed in bad condition? Is it leaking or is it just time?
It's time, the shelter around it that we got some material from a, source that's just starting to deteriorate. It's been there 17 years. We just kind of made do with what we had.
But it could last until fiscal year 26.
Yeah.
Am I
Yeah,
hearing
we
that
can get a
right?
couple more years out of it.
Okay.
Matter of fact, we're gonna be doing some preventive maintenance on it here in the next few weeks, as well.
Courthouse waterproofing. I'm assuming that's the roof.
No, actually, no, that number, no, and you're large enough for the roof. The courthouse was waterproof in 2017. It had a 7-year warranty with the waterproofing in it. We've asked several times for funding for the waterproofing because it's out of date. And evidently, when the courthouse was built, it had issues up there in the clerk of court, area. And actually in the sheriff's department, there were, Jason Butler's office is.
Yeah.
You have water that will migrate through that split place block, and it causes the inside to have moisture in it, but it was done in 2017. It had a 7-year warranty on it. That warranty has been out. We haven't really had any major issues. The only issue we did have in Mr. Butler's office over there, that we actually went in and waterproofed ourselves. After we had the building pressure washed, we went in and waterproofed around some of it. But that's something that's been put on there because it was done, but it has not been maintained. And it only had like a 7-year life on it, and that's been 10 years ago. So does it need to be done every 7 years? Based on the history, probably not, but it should be done.
You said this was last done in, say
17.
17?
17.
Okay.
When they put the roof, no, I'm sorry, 2007. When they put the roof on there, they did the waterproofing on that building at that time. But it has not been in
17, okay.
Yeah. 2007.
Okay.
It's 94, that section that we're in now.
Yes, sir, 93, 94 timeframe. The plans say 93, so it's probably completed about 94.
Next thing on here is detention duct cleaning.
There's no dollar amount on that.
Mhm.
That's something we had looked at, talked about, that system over there, like BJ says, is so unique. They dry and close on the vents and all, sucking, lint and all through there. So it's something that we were looking to, when we did some, remediation work in the sheriff department itself, we did some duct cleaning on there. So it's something we looked at, the buildup is starting to increase. Sewer and the ducts over there have a lot of abuse, and that's something that we are looked at possibly to change out. But it's one of those things, though. It's not a health risk. It's just something that they recommended to extend the life of our equipment on the roof. That we probably need to do that as well.
And then DSS bathroom upgrades.
I think we need to leave that where it is. I think
Is
we'll
that
talk
some
about
kind
doing it next year.
We've been talking about for.
is that some kind of ADA upgrade or
No, we told them they're awful.
just, okay, I didn't know if it was.
What about spacing over this? I mean, is there been any more conversation about?
Yeah, me and Miss Kim talked about that a little bit yesterday. In that she sees the same issues I did. Spacing is just an issue. And so I think at some point this county is gonna have to make some tough decisions, whether they are Are you gonna try to build a new, maybe multi-purpose building over there, help DSS, maybe even have some other county programs over there that you can. Are you gonna try to do that? Is there any adding on to that building? Is there going in and redesigning that bit, what are we gonna do with that? None of it gonna be easy and all of it gonna be expensive, I'm sure. The thing about DSS buildings are, there's a lot of USDA money out there for that, so it doesn't come at a total county cost. So there's a lot that goes into doing that, or even rehabbing a DSS building. You have to get all these approvals and check-offs by the state so you can get your reimbursement on that building every month. I started looking into that a little bit last year, and there is some good USDA reimbursement on that. So there's no easy answers to space. Like I said, I talked to Miss Kim yesterday about it, and yesterday I told her, I said, think about what's in your building, that if you absolutely had to, back against the wall, is there anything you could carve out and move somewhere else in this county? We have space in this county. We have offices. Across the street, I walk by and there's just empty offices. Move a couple file cabinets out, we've got an office sitting there.
And I don't wanna
And
beat
so
that
I
dead
told-
horse, but that clinic sitting there that I still feel like, something from.
So I did talk to her about
It is
that
close.
yesterday.
It is close.
Because that's more of an immediate fix. But, it would be up to her, what can you carve out and move without totally interrupting client services? So, left her with that yesterday. Not an easy answer for that.
Okay.
But if there's serious interest in making some kind of moves, we'll begin to research that. And if there is serious interest in revisiting the decision on the free clinic, clearly up.
I hate to lose that bill. It's sitting there.
We have submitted a permit to the state for demo.
A demolition permit, or,
We have to get
which
a
we
permit.
can stop that, just because you
Yeah.
get the permit doesn't mean you have to do it.
I just can't imagine it. It's that bad.
Me either.
The old free clinic.
Right out beside the health department.
And the number that we did get did not include doing any remodeling.
Remind me the number. It included mold restoration, duct work, there's structural damage on the inside,
Right.
the flooring is weak.
Just a basic, rehab to make it safe. Price did not include going in because there was plumbing issues, there was electrical issues, like when you work this light switch here, work this whole hall down here because the way nothing was individual, so it's kind of like it was, like one room and then they cut it up, but they didn't have the electrical tied into it. So the electrical, plumbing, like I said, structural, also, ductwork. And we had a breakdown on everything on it, but that did not include bringing it back up. The bathrooms have got to be remodeled, reconfigured because they were not actually ADA compliant. Also, redesigning it to make it, instead of being an office, a doctor's office, to be usable space for offices.
And what was that number?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but I can get it for you.
I thought it was like 200.
It was almost $200,000, I think, for that.
So,
And that's not counting the remodel.
Add on to it. I don't know.
What's the
Go
square
ahead,
foot
because
in
we
that?
got to move on for that other.
Okay. We'll get the square footage of that building and then compare that to what the legislature says you have to have per office for DSS space, because they require a certain amount of square footage if you're seeing clients in an office. And see how many offices we can get out of it. You wanna do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on, is that the last thing under 25? There's a repair on here for Market Park.
JC Park.
JC Park.
Is that a parking lot for JC Park?
Oh, it is under parking lot, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Um,
that's another parking lot with the county that's never had anything done.
That can't be major, because it
No.
has to be parking lot.
Yeah, and it's in decent shape. I mean, it could go for, a few years. All the parking can be pushed out another year or two, but it comes to the point where, like at the courthouse, you gotta make a decision before we get past that point.
All right, right now, we're gonna stop this because we've got to go into a special meeting for the commissioners in just a minute. So, do we need to come back after that?
we made a lot, the only thing I was gonna, and you can even take this with you if you rather, these are the requests that have come in so far from departments. And the due date hasn't come yet, their due date is January 31st. So, I don't know that we really need to start discussing them now, they don't even have all their quotes in.
Just something to look at.
So we need to have a follow-up meeting after that.
Yes, sir.
Can we go ahead and set that?
Jason, remind me, when are your capital committees typically set, or is whenever they're called?
Whatever they're called.
Okay, I thought they fell on a certain,
No, that's policy.
No, that's,
only the policy falls on that, okay.
let's see, we'll be gone the week of the 11th of February, so
Yes, sir.
this legislative break, that's on February 8th. February 7th, I'm okay, unless that's too soon.
Get them in on the 31st. Beth, what do you think? Can by
Policy
February-
meets on the seventh.
Policy meets on the 7th,
Yes.
11th. But if you want to do it in time,
I don't know who's on policy.
What date
Who's
is
on
that?
policy?
Policy,
Mr. Alford, Whit Gibson, and Mr. Williams.
Mr. Duke.
I thought Bo was on policy. That's fine.
So we can be on the seventh.
Well, I mean, we could meet before that,
I was gonna say, if y'all wanna meet at 9, because they don't meet till 11.
Beth,
I mean, is that too early? or
will
is that-
you and I, between the 31st and February 7th, you think we can sit down and take what we looked at today? We gotta have quotes from the department heads if they're requesting things.
I'm just wondering if the 7th's too quick.
That's what I'm,
Now we can move to the week of the 19th.
can we move to the week of the 19th?
Yeah.
Okay,
Because the week of the 11th, we'll all be gone, or just about all of us.
We do the 20th. That Tuesday.
There's a department head meeting at 9
On the 20th,
on the 20th. And that's usually lasts until about 10:30 or
or
11.
about the 21st.
We can move to 21st.
be fine. That's fine with me too.
Can we do 10?
Will that be
That's
long
fine.
enough for nothing if you got an 11?
I can move that 11.
Okay.
So 10 o'clock on the 21st.
And then we'll have, matter of fact, me and Beth by that time can put together some recommendations and
Yeah, the 7th probably is too quick.
And that being said, we may have enough information by then, not have to come back, just go to your full board.
Okay.
Thank y'all so
That
much.
works.
Appreciate it.
Okay,
So this meeting adjourned.
this meeting's adjourned, and we got about 10 minutes before we take off. Yeah.
Thank you, bud.